Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this Bench to Market talk. Um, this is a series that we do in conjunction with some of our partners, including the Petit Institute at Georgia Tech and the CTSA as well in Georgia. So welcome, everyone. And move forward, Christina, please. So I just wanted to share briefly some of the scheduled talks that are coming up as well. Today we'll be talking about assembling a startup team, crucial topic of interest for many. And as you can see, we'll go throughout the cycle through a number of topics, including IP, customer discovery, quality systems, and other topics that are generally of interest to biomedical innovators. You can find all of our series in the Biolocity website as well. Also wanted to thank BARDA. As you know, Biolocity is a BARDA Drive Accelerator, and we continually look for technologies in our region, in our ecosystem that could be of use for some of the different initiatives that BARDA has, including patient monitoring, diagnostics, and broadly, medical countermeasures that could be used to address potential, security, safety, and pandemic situations like the one we're living in today. So, any interest on this as well, we're happy to connect. You can also request a meeting through our website. So our next topic in our series will be, the importance of customer discovery. We have someone that has a lot of experience in this space, and is here to really share her journey and talk a little bit more about the I-Court program as a way to kind of execute that early customer discovery as well, which is a very interesting resource that folks that, especially at Emory, Georgia Tech, but also kind of in the broader region have access to. So that should just be an interesting event as well. So to talk about today's topic, we have a special guest, a very special guest, Kirk Barnes. Kirk has been an invaluable partner to Biolocity and helped us on many occasions looking at technology, especially in the digital space. As a way of introduction, Kirk's the co-founder and president at TransferMed, and he focuses on sales excellence, primarily using coaching and connections as a way to accelerate that sales cycle, and especially in digital health innovation. And as we all know, kind of getting that early sales traction is one of the hardest things that you can do from a new product innovation perspective. So TransferMed is also a member of the AMA's Physician Innovation Network. And Kirk in particular has had a lot of experience, commercializing biopharmaceuticals, medical devices, health IT technologies, and in addition to nanotech-based technologies. So his focus is primarily around, leadership development, business development, and marketing within these technologies as well. He's been part of ATDC as a catalyst, and is currently also a member of the Biolocity Oversight Committee. He serves on several boards for different companies and institutions, including Together Health, which focuses on digital health innovation nationally, and the Institute for Health Information as well. So Kirk, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the time and the expertise. And I'll say Kirk definitely has a great story to tell. So without further ado.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm assuming you guys can hear me.
At least I can. I hope the attendees can as well.
Hopefully everybody. Okay, so let me go on and share my screen to get that started. Get this, and we'll get into presentation mode. Okay, fantastic. And I can't see while I'm presenting but I'm going to let Christina or Manuel let me know if you guys can't see my screen. I think Manuel, for some of your presentation, only part of the screen was showing. So
Oh,
if that is the case, let me know,
we can see
and
the
I'll
full
see if I can.
slide,
Okay,
Kirk.
perfect. Perfect. Okay. Well, great. It's great speaking with everyone. And I would say I would make this interactive, but we can't in this environment. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the best practices for networking, and particularly as it pertains to building your startup team. So I'd like to one say it's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak about one of my favorite subjects. And what I thought I'd do is start off with a little storytelling in terms of my startup experience, beginning things from scratch and seeing how things unfold, which will give some context to the tips that I'm going to share with you throughout my talk. So I'll say startup team story number one. So I had the opportunity on the to get in on the ground floor with a company that I joined. They had no product on the market. They were a new entity in the United States, and I actually got that opportunity because at the time I was working for the Janssen Biotech division of Johnson and Johnson, and so we were the commercial arm for a cytokine for red blood cells and different chemotherapeutic agents as well. And the mentor that I had actually went to this new organization and was very excited about it, was looking for a new opportunity. And he came back to me and said, "Hey, I know that you and I worked really well together at Johnson and Johnson. I'm coming to this new company, and I think it will be just a great place for you to come and be a part of." And once I finally followed him, he's a mentor, trusted. Didn't have to really interview for the job. It was it came to me, and when I started meeting the leadership, they had this vision that they were going to build a world-class pharmaceutical company, which I thought, okay, well, first of all, you have to have a drug, which you didn't have, wasn't approved, and there were actually more consultants than there were employees of the company at that time. So, of course, I was very excited to get this opportunity. And also, I was moving at that time. I lived in Kentucky, and I had wanted to move and get my wife and I to Atlanta at the time. So I also got the great opportunity to move back to Atlanta. And you may be familiar with this little company called Takeda Pharmaceuticals, and I was employee 121. So I was the 121st employee. No revenue when I joined. Again, there were more consultants, and now Takeda is almost a $20 billion global pharmaceutical company. And this is one of those startup stories that went really well. Just remember, the team growing exponentially, just fast, and even opportunities inside the company were very plentiful. As I was fortunate to move up about 5 or 6 times to director level before I ended up leaving the company, which takes me to startup team story number two. Again, the vision this time was to build a commercially successful nanotech company. And as with the former company, I actually got this opportunity because I was laid off or downsized from Takeda. And so the guy that I worked really closely with by the name of Dean Hart, he was the vice president of sales for Takeda. And he actually left to go be the chief commercial officer of a nanotechnology company that was a spinoff out of Northwestern. And I believe there's a few people in the audience that have a nanotech background, but we were commercializing dip pen nanolithography out of Chad Merkin's lab at Northwestern, in addition to some other technologies. So, when I was first approached by this guy, Dean Hart, I was like, wait, what is nanotechnology? Again, I'm an economics guy, business background, not a science. So I thought, biotechnology was hard enough to learn, but then, really understanding what is nanotechnology, how do we commercialize it? So that was the first thing, is really understanding what I was getting into. But he did a good job of explaining it to me. Flew me up to Chicago, to meet with the C-suite, which was a new experience, and they were really selling me on why it would be a great opportunity to join the organization. And the other thing that was very intriguing is I had always wanted a position where I would be able to travel internationally. And so one of the first things the CEO told me, he said, "Well, I hope you have a passport because you're going to be doing a lot of global traveling." Because my role was to help develop the globally commercial business for two of the four divisions at the time. So great opportunity. Joining Nano Inc. is the name of the company. So I ran the global business development for the Nano Guardian division, which was used nanofabrication to put covert and forensic level security features directly on tablets and capsules to protect the pharmaceutical supply chain. And then the Nano Professor, which was a hands-on nanotech program that used our desktop nanofabrication system and curriculum. We actually built designed and built a textbook and whole curriculum suite of equipment to sell to companies and really schools and programs across the world that wanted to have a hands-on nanotech program instead of actually using Legos or just models. So great company, great technology. We really worked to fine-tune our messaging and our pitch, and in fact, had double-digit growth. But unfortunately, this was one of those startup stories that did not go well. In fact, at that time, thought that we were actually being courted to be bought, and I had a substantial share in the company, and thought that by this time I probably would be on a boat somewhere sipping some adult beverages. And unfortunately, this is one of those stories where we had a sole billionaire funder that was the sole source of all of our funding. And our company, Nano Inc., was the demise of billionaire family infighting. And so regardless of how well we were performing, our company did not survive. And with 3 days notice, our company closed down, and it was a very hard time frame. But those are the stories that a lot of people don't talk about in terms of building a startup. But that was indeed what happened to me. So had to reinvent myself, and picked up the pieces and did some networking. And interesting that the Nano Professor, that experience, we had worked with several professors across the United States to help write the textbook. And one of the guys, Dr. Steve Leonard, who was a professor at Florida State University, asked me to come and help him with some commercial ideas to help get his technology out through tech transfer and into the marketplace. And so it felt like Wilson. I was all alone in that. I didn't know this tech transfer world, or really this early stage part of the startup world. So through a lot of networking and being humble and getting into different circles where I didn't know anybody, started off feeling all alone, but people were more than willing to help. And just from connecting the dots, I ended up meeting some people through Florida State's tech transfer department that introduced me to some people that knew folks at ATDC. Had never been to ATDC, and in fact, in Atlanta, although I lived here, I traveled. I spent most of my time on an airplane and traveling, so I didn't have firm roots here. So I really had to start from scratch and getting to know the people in this entire ecosystem. And what I've found that the best way to get ingrained is meeting people, looking at where we have partnerships. And eventually ended up mentoring at ATDC, and was there enough giving some time and getting to know the folks there through networking. And they ended up offering me a position to come on board. And eventually their goal was to start the health tech vertical, which I did. So I had to raise the money and have some great partnerships, and being in the community with Emory and Georgia State and Georgia UGA, and all throughout the entire state, was able to put together a pitch and game plan to get funding for this vertical. And now I think it's probably a couple years ago, we got the guy that's right here, David Weeks, who's the CTO of NASCO, to write a big check to underwrite the entire cost of launching our healthcare vertical. That's Bud Peterson, former president of Georgia Tech, and Jane McCracken, who's the associate director, was the interim director of ATDC at the time. But again, go from not knowing anybody, being Wilson stranded on an island, to being able to launch this program in a short amount of time. Learned a lot in that process. So that's again one story that actually worked out well. And the last is just now having my own firm, and wanting to work to speed up the commercialization of healthcare innovation. And so without any advertising, my firm has been able to work with a lot of the organizations here. And again, that's attributed to just being able to understand, working with people, networking, being connected. And that's one of the things that has helped me be successful through multiple career changes, company closings. In fact, there isn't, as I think through my career, a single job that I have gotten where I actually had to apply. All of them have been presented to me or asked if I'd be interested in joining. Obviously, being good at what you do is one part, but really being able to surround yourself with the right people is just as, if not more important. So when you think about building a team and even networking, one of the things to think about is also understanding people. And if you have never done any of the personality tests like Myers-Briggs or even this is the DISC assessment, I think it's great for you to at some point get a good understanding of the different kind of quadrants here. This just as an example to understand the types of person that you are, the type of person that you are, as well as the type of people that you want to have on your team. For example, if you have a team of all dominant people, you're probably not going to get along that well. You probably think very similar. So even think about as you build a team and you have to engage with customers and even different types of employees, it's important to have a well balance, but it's good to really understand what it means when you have to interact with different types of people and even how you relate to them and having to meet them where they are and speak their style. So sometimes as me as a salesperson, I didn't learn this early on, but saying a sales message or even pitching somebody is one thing. But if I can better understand who that person is, what resonates with them, then I have a better chance of being able to relate to them and really speak their language. So one of the first steps in starting a kind of thinking about your team is your purpose, your vision, and what is it that you really want to accomplish. And I have this question mark here, this question here, because the question I'll ask, especially if you're at an academic institution, you're at Emory, Georgia State, UGA, or Georgia Tech, and you have some IP. The question I often ask people, and I think we even have some folks that are I-Core instructors, is do I really want a startup? Or do I want to make money by licensing this technology, but I don't have to deal with a team and personalities and raising money? And be careful what you ask for because it is very doable. There's some good roadmaps to follow to help you be successful in launching a startup team. But sometimes when you really understand it and talk to other founders, there's a lot that comes into being an entrepreneur and being the person that is responsible for raising the money, for generating revenue, for building a team and managing conflict. And so, understanding what your purpose is at the very beginning in your vision and being very clear on that is going to be so important because, again, going back to my startup stories, even before those companies had a clear product or clear vision, they had a very clear, not clear vision, they had a very clear vision on what it is they wanted to do and where they wanted to be and what they wanted to look like. So I think, thinking through your product, what you're solving, the problem you're solving, and what is going to be your vision statement or mission for your organization is going to be very important, especially when you get into this next, there we go, next phase. is, assessing your network. And, when you start thinking about how you're going to say and what it is, you want to accomplish, what type of company you want to establish, and the types of people that you want to join your organization, or even be a part of kind of your mentoring pool or your board of directors. It's so important not to just think, I have to start from scratch. Where am I going to go? Many times, it's so important just to look at what your current network is. And I know, just looking at some of the folks that are on the call, we have some people that have ties from France. We have people that went to U of Chicago, to Cornell. We have so many people even on this call that have common connections, just from doing a little homework on the audience here. The best place to start is to start with people that you already know. And sometimes, whether it's LinkedIn is a great place. And if you don't have a LinkedIn, to make sure that your profile is updated. And the other thing I'll also say is to stay in touch with the people, or even reconnect with people that you worked with in the past, whether it's at a corporate function, corporate role, or if it's even an internship. For example, I looked at, I'm trying to think of the names of people that, or one of the people in the audience that actually worked at Samsung Biologics. And I think that's, one of the person worked at Samsung Biologics. So if you're trying to launch a startup and you eventually want to have a corporate sponsor, or even someone that might be willing to do some beta testing or kind of pilots for you, that's a great place to start, because you already have relationships there. So it's really important to take the time and look retrospectively at all the experiences that you have, looking for that common ground for people that are going to be able to help you out. Because again, if you have that common connection with somebody, you went to the same university, there's a bond, kind of a written code there that makes it very easy for people to be willing to work with you. And I think that is one of the things that many people underestimate, and think that, well, I only have, and I'll just pull a number, 100 people on my LinkedIn network. So, it's going to be really difficult for me. No, it's not the 100 people. It's not the fact that you only have 100 people. Those 100 people could be the doors that could be open to really getting what you need in terms of people, whether it's people that join your team, whether it's people that are going to give you money if you're trying to raise money, or if it's people that you need help in furthering your research. And many times, those folks that are currently in your network are also people that you may want to add, as I mentioned here, kind of a board of directors, a literal board, and also more of a figurative board. And one of my mentors shared with me a long time ago that it's great to have people in your life that are going to help coach you and understand where you're going, so that they can give you feedback and guidance. And many times, they're folks that don't think like you, but will hold you accountable. And so it's so important to be able to have a small circle of people that can help guide you through this process. But I always believe that most of what you need is probably 1 or 2 degrees of separation away from the people that you currently know. And again, as I was just looking through some backgrounds of some of the folks that are on this call, there's a tremendous wealth of experience and even knowledge and network. And in fact, I could pick on, I don't know if Chris Rolfs is on the line, but again, he's now at T3 Labs, for example, and he's from Minnesota. And so a lot of people may or may not know that my dad was a former 3M exec. So out of all the places we moved around, I spent time in Minnesota. And also, Chris, I noticed that you spent time at Medtronic. So again, if you haven't made or kept that connection there, huge connection. In fact, there's some people that I work with on the innovation team at Medtronic. In fact, the former GM of one of their largest divisions is now a board member for Best Buy. So there's a lot of connections just from that one instance and looking up Chris's background, for example. And so, Chris, I hope you didn't mind me picking on you, but just thought that I would use that as an example. But assessing your network is the second step that's so important in terms of really evaluating the people that you need to have around you. And this question I usually ask, and I'll ask people to raise their hand. but I can't. I can ask it, but I can't see you. But I'll ask, are you a salesperson? And for a lot of my academicians that are on this call, or the people that are doing research, more times than not, people will say no. Well, if you have an idea and you have an idea for a startup, you are essentially a salesperson. You may not be have had a salesperson role, but it will behoove you to work on identifying how you can improve the way that you articulate your vision, your pitch, and get people interested in what you do, because there's passion, and you should hear people should hear the passion in your voice. People should have in 30 seconds to 2 minutes tops. You should be able to clearly articulate what it is you're trying to do and be able to nail that pitch down. So I always have this discussion about whether or not you're a salesperson, and if you are a startup founder, or if you have an idea or something that you're working on and you want people to work for you, give you money, give you resources, or even if you're doing customer discovery in like an iCore project or at some kind of startup program, being able to tell your story is so important. And so working on that, and not feeling like the proverbial used car salesman, but being an effective salesperson just really means that you are effective at your pitch. And storytelling is one of the things that is really important in terms of, as you're thinking about, building your startup team. How do you effectively get people interested in what it is you're doing? And so being able to merge both meaning and emotions, as I like to think about, telling your story with two things in mind, both the head and the heart. Because think about, some of the advertisements that you see on television, like Apple iPhone, for example, and I'll just pick that one. Very rarely do you see an Apple iPhone commercial that just says, "This is the new iPhone. It has, 1 gigabyte of storage. It has this many pixels of resolution. It's, has this kind of processor. Go buy the Apple iPhone. It's at your stores, and it's $1,000, which is just crazy now that we're paying $1,000 for phones." No, that is a pure head play or head story that doesn't really pull on the heartstrings. But you think about those commercials where they have the pictures of the wedding, the pictures of this amazing trip, the picture of the baby, the videos of the baby being born, and it's getting people to start thinking about, wow, I don't want to miss, those occasions and those types of opportunities. I want to be able to capture that at any point in time, and I need that. I think if I had an iPhone, I'll be able to do that on top of all these other bells and whistles. But again, it's just part of the effectiveness of storytelling and telling your, pitching your presentation, and making sure that you can get other people to see and buy into your vision. And the difference between a vision and a hallucination is how many people will see it. So again, if you're the only person that sees this vision, either you are hallucinating yourself, or you just need to better fine tune what that pitch looks like. And again, when you're pitching, and especially a 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute conversation, the purpose of the pitch is not to tell somebody the how or what it is you're doing. It's to get them bought into seeing the why, and you want people to ask you, tell you more, to get a follow-up appointment, to get more time. And so that's why having some coaching and really understanding the best way to articulate your idea in a condensed time frame, there is a work. It doesn't come naturally. There are some best practices and best tactics and ways that you can do it, whether you're doing a formal presentation or if it's the proverbial elevator pitch and somebody just is asking you, well, what are you doing? The difference is saying, well, I'm working on some kind of nanotechnology project, or you're saying I'm working on a project that will make sure that any product, any pharmaceutical product that a person buys, I'll make sure that it's authentic and not a counterfeit, which kills a lot of people that folks don't know about. And from that one comment, and I'm just winging it, people may say, oh, I didn't know that counterfeiting was a big issue. Tell me more. And that's eventually that's the purpose of the pitch, is to get people to say, tell me more, or I would like to get more information. Um, and this picture of the donkey over here, I think needs no explanation that not to be an ass when you're speaking to people. And excuse my language if I offended anybody, but it's very important to understand that people don't care how many degrees you have, what your accolades are. They don't care, and trying to impress them with all this technical terms. What people really care about is what are you doing to solve a problem? What are you doing that will solve a problem for them? How you could possibly help them, and being able to help meet people where they are. So sometimes, even though you've had tremendous success in your previous life or tremendous success in your current career field, and it might be research oriented or even business oriented. If you get into a startup world or you're building a startup team and you work with new people and you have to raise money and build new relationships, there's those things that are important, but just because you were successful in your previous life does not indicate or dictate that you will be successful in this one. So understanding that meeting people where you are, different personality types, being able to tell your story is so important, that it's also being able to humble yourself a little bit and recognize that not everybody is going to be as smart as you are. The founders that I've coached are absolutely brilliant, as I would imagine everybody on this team is, on this call is, from looking at your backgrounds. But what I'll tell you is that a lot of that doesn't matter when you're trying to talk to people and get them to buy into your vision and understand that you are somebody that they would want to support, endorse, or even eventually work with. Okay, so again, practicing your pitch, storytelling, and getting people to buy into your vision. And I forgot about this. Um, Always be closing. The whole proverbial, always be closing from in some of the different movies that were out there. But one of the opportunities that I see that's frequently missed is when you are talking to someone about your idea or your business or your startup, you have someone's attention. And at the end of that discussion, there should be an ask, meaning there should be some type of action that you want people to do. Now, whether or not they do it, you never know, but if you don't ask, you don't get. So I always figure if you're talking to somebody and you're telling your story, and especially you're trying to get people to buy into the vision, or if you're looking for someone that's going to be your CFO or on your technical team, if you're pitching the idea to somebody and they say, hey, what are you're working on? And you say, again, I'll go back to my example. I'm working on this nanotechnology program that will help protect the supply chain and make sure that people across the world don't get counterfeit medicines. Oh, that's very interesting. It sounds really interesting. And I might say, hey, that's just the brief synopsis of what I'm doing. What I would ask of you, if you'd be willing to help me, is if you have anybody that has expertise in working on in nanofabrication, for example, please let them know what I'm working on, give them my information, or even connect us, because that's somebody that I would like to have a part of my team. Will you do that? That's as simple as it is. But so many times I hear people give a pitch and say, okay, well, great, thank you, and they're out of there. But there should always be some kind of action that you should ask people. And that's also part of the handoff, part of the commitment and continuity of getting your story out there for more people. So the other thing that I'll say that comes along with networking, and I don't know if you've heard the whole saying that you should fish where the fish are swimming. Well, that's the same thing in terms of building a team. Is go where you're going to find support, go where you're going to find like-minded individuals, go where you're going to find resources that are geared towards helping startups succeed and all that that entails. So if you're not involved with innovation communities, both either at your academic or really at your academic institution, or really, a larger community that would allow you to tap into all these different resources here, talent, continually learning is another part of building your startup team. Getting mentors, being part of incubators and accelerators. I can tell you, when I was at ATBC, I would meet with people that would come in and have some kind of idea or some kind of business, and say, well, I'm here at ATDC and I'm just meeting you because I just want you to help me get funding. I need to get $250,000, and that's the only reason why I'm meeting you. And I'll say, okay, well, that's interesting. Let me hear your idea. I want you to pitch to me. And what I would find more times than not is some of these people had never, been to or received any coaching or mentoring in terms of pitching. They had no experience in really understanding if you're trying to raise money, what are the things you need to have in your pitch deck to make sure that you're answering the questions that angel investors or venture capital VCs are actually going to ask during a pitch. And sometimes I'd have to give some very brutal honesty, to these folks and say, with the pitch that you gave me, there's no way I would ever give you money because you left this out, you left this out, you left this out. And many times it's not a reflection of the caliber of the technology or even the founder, but it's about packaging, preparation, being coached and mentored, and having all these different resources that are going to be so important for you in terms of getting everything you need to actually, build your startup team. And if you're in community, it's also important because being an entrepreneur, a founder, is very difficult emotionally. We look at a lot of the news that hits in Hype, which is the kind of the startup digital magazine for our community here, and you see all these people that raise money, they exited or they have all this success, but all the bumps that were along the road, all of the things that they went through to get there. And again, I see, and I have a different lens because I help companies get through the commercialization phase and help them make money and actually generate revenue. And a lot of times what I see are companies that raise money but never get revenue. And so sometimes you don't see that celebrated, but it's a very difficult path in between. And so the other part that isn't listed here is as you're trying to build a team and you are bringing people on, sometimes it doesn't work out. You have to fire people or let people go. It's also great for emotional support because it is a roller coaster. It is very difficult, and it is a challenge. So having yourself in a community and fish where the fish are swimming is so important because you don't want to be alone. It's very difficult. And also this helps to vet people that you may want to bring on a part of your team. I could tell you, I know Manny and I have had, Manuel and I have had discussions about, certain companies and whether or not we want to join because there are opportunities. And I could tell you, this is also a great source that the technology looks great, but there's no way I would ever want to work with that founder because he or she is an absolute train wreck. They have, big personality issues because it's not just about the technology, it's about the founder, the culture, the vision. And sometimes, it's not going to be a fit in spite of your affinity to really want to be a part of that ecosystem and that community. So, or that company rather. So again, I think it's so important to get into an innovation community because of all the things that you'll have access to in that ecosystem that will help you in building your startup team. And so this is the last thing I'll say is as you meet people and as you start asking people is I call the follows. And this is where more times than not, where sales are lost, where contracts are lost, where continuity is discontinued is because people don't follow up or follow up. And I have this up here that when you meet people for the first time and you pitch them and you meet them and maybe you've asked them to do something is the famous TV show, The First 48. I also believe in 48 hours, that is a critical window to follow up with that person. Say, hey, we met, Christina, it was great to meet you. We met at the Biolocity event. I was telling you a little bit about my business and my idea. You said that you might be somebody you'd be able to introduce me to. It'd be great if you could help me out. I'm open to doing anything else I can help you out with. It'd be great if we can connect in a week or talk live or something like that. Follow up, and then follow through. If people are asking you and say, hey, it'd be great if you send me your pitch deck. If you can get it to me in the next couple of days, that'd be great. Well, you actually do have to follow through and actually do what you say you're going to do. As simple as it sounds, it's very difficult, especially for founders and entrepreneurs, because we wear the marketing hat, we wear the sales hat, we wear the finance hat, and that is sometimes the Achilles heel to being a founder, because there are so many things that you have to balance that many times the follow through gets lost and things just die. And you look back a year like, oh, well, I had a great opportunity, I didn't follow up. And you sometimes you miss those opportunities, and that's very unfortunate. And then follow on is just continually to re-engage people with some kind of cadence so that they don't follow up. And as I mentioned, I think Chris, if I was picking on you, like your time at Medtronic, um, it may have been years since you've been there, but look back at the people that you were working with and be willing to follow on and pick up the engagement where you left off. You might say, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. It was a great experience while I was working with you. I just want to keep you up to date on what I'm working on, and would love to just continue to keep you in the loop. And I hope if there's something that I may need, that I'll be able to call on you sometime in the future, and not waiting until you actually need something, but planting that seed very early on before you actually have to ask for something, which is so important. In fact, I just made a post not too long ago on social media about those calls that you get from people you haven't talked to in years, and the first thing they do is ask you for a connection or for a job, but you don't know what has happened. There's been no connectivity over a period of time. Sometimes people feel some kind of way about that. So it's good to stay connected with people that may eventually have some doors that are going to be open for you, especially as you are building your startup team. Just in the interest of time, I won't get into that. But with just kind of a summary, defining your purpose, vision, assessing your network, where you are, and the people that you have, the experience that you have, to start and reconnect there. Practice your pitch, practice your pitch, practice your pitch. If you can't if you can't get someone to understand what you're doing and want to do with the vision of your company in 30 seconds or 2 minutes, it's going to be even more difficult to do it in 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. And sometimes it's one of those things like the more, when you don't know where you're going with the story, the more rope you give somebody, sometimes they just hang themselves. So, being able to really fine tune that pitch and what it is that you want to do so that people can buy in and ask for more information. So important. Fish where the fish are. Get connected into a community that supports the startup mentality. The resources that are there is so important, because many times in these communities you have everything you need, from vetting people to finding funding to just even getting support for the rough road of entrepreneurship and being a startup. And then the follow up, follow through. Again, the first 48 is to follow up with people after you met them or had your initial engagement with them. Follow through and doing what you say you're going to do, and follow on. If there's people that you haven't talked to in a long time, go ahead and reach out and just make those reconnections as well. So my ask, as I just talked about, is for each of you that are in the audience to connect with me on either LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram. I have an Instagram account, Profits, Promotions, and Power, that is geared towards all things networking, so you can follow and see some of the things that I talk about there. If you are in need or have any other questions as well, you can contact me. My email, Kirk Barnes at TransformEd, or text me as well. But I hope that what I shared with you, if there's at least one thing that you took away, then my job was successful today. And I am so grateful for the opportunity. I could talk on and on about this, but I wanted to make sure I left some time for Q&A. And so with that being said, I will stop sharing. And then I don't know if Christina or Manuel, if we want to open things up for Q&A, I'm more than open to answering some questions.
Hello, great only question that remain. Actually, it's like questions I get hard. You need a lot of boring sport and how you can pray for me more. access point or hard years on this off-road love track. It's all about around become a bird asking for thing. How do you think, how you direct
Hey, man, well, for some reason, your audio is real choppy. I don't know if anybody else is hearing that.
as with you?
Well, Wallman,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's still a little distorted. But Christina, were you hearing the same thing?
yes,
Okay.
but there is one. Are you having any issues with mine?
Yeah, just a little. It was clear, and then there's a little.
Yeah, I'm having issue.
Or maybe if we use the chat feature, if there's questions.
Are you able to view?
You have today. You can talk.
Yeah, I can mute my line.
I can be this Q it's high pitch in them as well.
I see a couple people said, yeah, for Manuel, your sound wasn't working well. I don't know if everybody's able to hear me still.
Kirk, I think
Yes.
your audio is definitely much better. I don't know if
Okay.
mine is any.
Okay, great. Your sound's clear now, Christine, as well.
Okay. There is one question in the Q&A from
Okay.
Pete student. Are you able to view that, or do you need me to read it out?
It'd be great if you could read it. I don't want to touch anything else. We got good sound right now, so let's go with that.
Understood. This is a PhD student who just started their program and has a very broad idea about what kinds of vision or problems they want to work on. Would like some advice on how they can narrow it down to a more concrete and actionable business idea.
Yeah, no, great question, and I think I will recommend the going through a class like customer discovery at ATDC, for example, free. You could sign up, and I think it's free. I think that the Educate membership, for example, is depending upon where you're a student, it might actually be free for you if you're at Tech or even Emory. But I think one of the things that is a question for startups is not can you build something, but should you build something, and in what you are building, what are customers actually saying in terms of what they need, and where's that product market fit. And so through the customer discovery process, it helps take the entrepreneur out of their mind and focused on the product that I have, but being able to validate what problems people have in that particular area. And that exercise, whether it's customer discovery at ATDC, or even if you are looking to like an I-Core program as well, I think that is a process that has been vetted over and over and over, that bears a lot of fruit and will help you identify one, that you're solving a problem that is in a space that may have a scalable market. It helps know that if you're developing a product, right, or if you are creating some kind of software or some kind of product that needs tweaks of certain attributes, the customer discovery process and that I-Core process will help you determine what are the extras or what are the specific things that need to be there so that it gets immediate traction. So that's one of the foundational things I would say are so important before you start putting a lot of time into building it, trying to raise money, all the things that are geared towards actually the product itself. Spend a lot of time around understanding customers, and I promise you that is a process that's at the core of Airbnb, Facebook, a lot of the big names that start off doing essentially customer discovery through like the lean startup method. Okay. I see a question here in the chat. I will go ahead and ask. So there was a question: how should folks think about growing their network? They hear this question frequently. I feel like I'm asking people for something, but not giving them anything in exchange. How do you think about sharing value in both directions? It's a great question, and networking at its core, I think Manuel and Christina may or may not know that I'm in the final stages of writing a book about it. And I think at its core, networking really is about giving enough where you have so many seeds that you've planted out there that things, will come back to you. But part of networking is, I think, one, understanding the people that you have in your current network and your assessment and what that looks like, and even starting to reach out to people and asking proactively things like, hey, we just haven't talked in a while. I'm just reaching out to you. I'm not sure what it is that you might need, but let's catch up. I'd love to hear what you're working on. But it's the constant act of doing that, and even little things like in this virtual world, on LinkedIn, for example, and I'll just use that because that's a big focus for the business world across all different sectors. But even looking at people you're connected to and people that you want to get connected to, and commenting on things that you see them doing on LinkedIn, or sending them an inbox and saying, hey, I really like your research, I like what you're doing, it'd be great to connect. And even once you connect with people on LinkedIn, then to see what it would take to have a follow-up discussion, 15-minute phone call, 30-minute phone call. There's no ask. You're not asking them to give you money or buy something from you, but it's more so really just starting to develop and bridge that connection. And I think it's things like that we have to be more flexible on now, because we are in a virtual environment. So it's not like you can go to a conference and meet people like we used to, and that has a whole nother tactic and strategy to itself. But the intent of meeting new people is always ongoing. That is the one job that everybody on this call should always have, is look at how can you expand your network, meet new people, because you never know where you're gonna be an opportunity to help people. And sometimes that just happens through a conversation. And sometimes it's thinking, like Manuel and Christina, we've been around each other now that, and again, how I even got the opportunity to speak with you here today is if somebody mentioned, hey, we're thinking about doing something on networking, they know that more likely, I might come to mind as somebody because I talk about it enough. I've asked them, if you ever need someone to talk on it, I would love to do it, pro bono. I just, love to have these talks. And then likewise, if there's things that Christina needed or Manuel needed, it's an open door. They've been able to call me, and it goes both ways. So I think that is a great question, because networking really is give and take, more give, but being able to constantly be proactive in reaching out to new people and doing just that, extending and saying, hey, it's nice to meet you. What can I do for you? If there's anything, please don't hesitate to let me know. And every now and then people will ask you, and when you actually do it, people don't forget about it. Some people might, but for the most part, they don't. Great question, though. Question is, how do I keep track of what others might need or be able to connect to? So this is a great question, and in this book, and it's really an instruction manual on things that I've done to help me do just that, especially as a network grows. So I'll give you guys a little insight into the method to my madness. And you may or not be aware that in LinkedIn and in most social media platforms, you can export all of your data into like an Excel spreadsheet. And with that comes people's company, their name, their location, and there's some of the core information that's in LinkedIn. And so I actually have that is the process that our method that I use. But at that time, at any point in time, I can look and search my history on, these people in certain cities. So, for example, if I am going to, again, when I was traveling, if I was going to San Francisco, I would go to my spreadsheet, which I update probably, once a quarter or once every month or something like that. And I would see who's in San Francisco, and then I would look at the people that are there and folks that I have really good relationships with. I might even rank them, or people that I really want to get to know. And so the goal is, whenever I would travel, is to meet people that I want to get to know more and schedule time to meet with them, coffee or something like that. And then I also take notes when I talk to people, and whether I create that in like my contact profile, I use just the contacts on my phone, and in the notes section, I'll put my history, what we talked about, and just keep adding to it every time I talk. So it helps me organize whenever I'm going to call Christina or Manuel. I can look at my notes and say, well, I know they have, last time I talked, they have, 2 kids that are, on their way to college. I know they're working on this new, biomedical startup. They were trying to raise funds, and they were getting ready to go on vacation trip to, the Bahamas, right? So I think, having a method in place that allows you to keep track of it, it's a little work up front, but it is by far the thing that I think has helped me solidify relationships, is that I have, and again, there's, other people that I just have gotten to know really well over the years because we've talked more and engaged more. But, through the process of being intentional about remembering important facts about people that I'm doing business with, it is a clear differentiator in everybody else that they're doing business with. So, having a method to keep track of what other people need. Mine's a spreadsheet, and even, the notes that I put in your contact in my phone. So when I do call you, before I call you, I do a little homework. I trust me, just like for this, and I think it's a great question, because many people don't understand the importance of the homework before you engage people. And so, just as I took some time to look at everybody's background on this call, I do that before I go into any meeting. I do that before I have, a sales pitch or a presentation, because the couple of comments that I make about understanding your background, that connection, it is priceless. And everybody wants to feel special, that you really know and have taken the time to get to know who I am. So hopefully that gives you some tips there.
Kirk, we have one more question that we can sneak in before time.
Sure.
Bram, and it says, I have extensive experience in the startup world as an entrepreneur in VC, but I'm passionate about.
I saw that.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, go ahead, Christina. I mean, I just saw that he's got a phenomenal background.
Okay. Said, I'm passionate about transitioning to the biotech and biopharma space, but a lot of resistance from people due to lack of a science background. Do you have any guidance on how to join a team in this space?
Yeah, great question, and I can really speak to that. And again, I'll go back to the point that I have well, first of all, probably the only person on this call that does not have a graduate degree. So I just have a bachelor's degree in business economics from Florida A&M University. But yet, how did I end up at, a high-tech, biotech firm selling, cutting edge nanotechnology, working with various digital health startups. I spent the last year as a fractional BD guy for 2 digital health startups in completely different spaces. I'm a board member of a board advisor, of a healthcare blockchain company. So I think that I think your point is very well made, and I think it comes to being able to help articulate your pitch and the value that you bring. And someone with your experience, I would imagine a team would be really blessed to have someone that has real life business experience, because one of the things I understand about the startup world is that, in spite of how intelligent the founders are, and how sound the technology is. Without a business person or business/salesperson, it is very difficult for those people to get out of that world to be able to do deals and get together with people that are outside of the scientific world. And so you look at the common denominator of transferable skills, which are building businesses, being a CEO. Yes, the biotech sector and working in biopharma is a different beast. And you'd have to learn how to get connections to the people. But again, when I looked at your background, and I was just trying to look at my notes real quick, I'd imagine from someone with your background, you have a very extensive network. There's people that can vouch for you. So I think being able to bridge the network in that world, along with the continuity of your success as a CEO, as a business person, and be able to tout the past successes that you had. I think those are things that have worked well for me when I have people that would vouch for me and say, well, Kirk, he was able to make, generate $1 million worth of revenue for us in 12 months. So, if he did it in this space and then he did it in a nanotech field and this field, then, I'm pretty comfortable that if there's something that I need to know to help me in this space, that this person would be highly competent to do so as well.
Thank you. And there is one more question in the chat. I'm trying to be sensitive of your time if you have time
Sure.
for one more.
Sure.
From Chris, and he said, when joining or creating a team, do you give much weight to their network and connections compared to their skills and experience?
Absolutely. It's interesting that we tend to, as people, sometimes overthink it and also just get a good feel in the gut. And as you assess different teams you want to join, there's a feeling that you really, and I'll quote Chris Sacca, famous investor and VC on Shark Tank sometimes, and it's very simple, but he had this quote. He said, when I think about joining teams and whether or not I want to work with somebody, if it's not an absolute hell yes, then it's a hell no. And sometimes, we're like, well, I really love the technology. This person really graded me wrong, but I really want to be there. And so maybe if I do this, I think look at the founder, look at the technology, look at the people they surround themselves with, look at their track record. And those are very telling signs. If looking at an entrepreneur that has built teams before, they've had an exit, and when you ask people in their network, hey, I might be considering working with so-and-so, what do you think about that? And people will be very forthcoming, and I think looking at their network and who they surround themselves with will give you a good gauge on what they're about. And again, there's some people that say, I really don't care that this person is a complete jerk, but I just really want to work to get that experience. And sometimes people are just miserable, but you know what you're getting into. So again, when you're joining that team, you're exactly right, Chris, to think about getting to know the people that they surround themselves with, looking at the folks that, again, the other thing I would look at is not only who they are, who's on their leadership team, who's on their board, what can you learn from them, even look at their networks, kind of, taking it out 2 to 3 steps as well. But that is another very important part of evaluating the teams and getting that feel that, one, do I, logically, is this a good place for me to be? But then when I'm around that person and when I talk to them, what is the feeling that I get? Do I feel really excited, or do I feel like this is, I'm going to be making compromises because, yeah, I like the technology, but I really don't care for the person or even the vibe they give off. And we've all been there. We've been in organizations that you couldn't pay me enough money to go back to because of, again, might be who I work for and just the culture that they have fostered at that company. And there are some people that I've worked for, and again, I've worked for multiple times, that if they call me with any opportunity, pretty much sight unseen, I'll find a way to work with them. And the guy that I mentioned from Takeda, Dean Hart, worked with him at Takeda, worked with him at the nanotech company. We did a coaching project together that he pulled me in with UCB Pharmaceuticals on their neuroscience division. So again, that's one of those people, if he calls me and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, would love to bring you in, done. Pretty much it's a no-brainer.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kirk. We appreciate your time today and your networking expertise and sharing that with us. And
Anytime.
I encourage attendees to take you up on your offer and connect with you online.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
All right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you so much.
Thank you. Take care.